Mhm.
And I think for everyone, it's one of three. It's we want time freedom, we want financial freedom, or it's a combination thereof. And we've all heard the statistics on, success rates or the lack of success rate in businesses those first few years. We've heard statistics is such as, only 14% of small businesses make it to six figures annually. And of that 14%, only 9 to 10% of businesses make it to the seven-figure mark.
Hmm.
What isn't talked about a lot is how many hours they're working in an attempt to make that money. And
Hello and welcome to another episode of Creating Powerful Impact. I'm your host, Shay Wheat, founder of Grace and Ease Productions, where we support entrepreneurs like you to profitably scale your business with events, allowing you to make sales faster with greater predictability and less team burnout. Today, I want to talk to all of my driven owners of service-based businesses who are ready to grow their multi six and seven businesses, 6 and 7 figure businesses, but do it in a way where you don't have to work longer hours. Can I get an amen? So, our guest today has several decades of business and leadership consulting under her belt. And that amazing person is Dana Earhart, also known as Dana Earhart, depending on what day of the week it is, right? Regardless, she's amazing. She has been leading service-based business owners to become those that thrive, and has been doing it since 2013. Now, y'all, she is a business growth strategist. She's been utilizing her optimization framework to help hundreds and hundreds of clients across 9 industries to rapidly create more business growth, time freedom, fun, and joy. Please help me welcome Dana to the Creating Powerful Impact stage. How are you?
I am doing great. What an introduction. I love it. Thank you.
Absolutely. So before we pressed record here, we were going like, how did we originally meet? And I want to say it was, probably when we both started our businesses and we were racking our brains and racking our brains. Regardless, it happened in and around an event, which I think is phenomenal. But since then, I would love for you to kind of start with telling us what you've really discovered in all of the years of coaching business owners. Many of them, you've taken from 6 to hitting multiple 6 and 7 figures. What have you actually discovered that might be surprising to our audience?
Ah, such a good question. And to be honest, it's even what I've learned myself on the journey, 11 years on this journey now. And it's how quickly when we start getting into the meat of our business and the growth, and sometimes what naturally happens is we're in the weeds of our business, we can easily lose sight of why we went into business to begin with.
Mhm.
And I think for everyone, it's one of three. It's we want time freedom, we want financial freedom, or it's a combination thereof. And we've all heard the statistics on, success rates or the lack of success rate in businesses those first few years. We've heard statistics is such as, only 14% of small businesses make it to six figures annually. And of that 14%, only 9 to 10% of businesses make it to the seven-figure mark.
Hmm.
What isn't talked about a lot is how many hours they're working in an attempt to make that money and keep the business afloat, in some seasons, let alone, trying to get it to thrive. And when I looked at the statistics, quite honestly, I was alarmed because only 19% of business owners actually work less than 40 hours a week. That means there's 81% of business owners who are working more than 40 hours a week, even though many of them came into business because they wanted time freedom. So there's a little irony there.
Right.
And It goes on, the statistics, I'm looking at them to make sure I get them right. 33% of small business owners are actually working more than 50 hours a week, and 25 log in more than 60 hours a week. And it doesn't stop there, because they also say that, how many is it? 57%, only 50% take vacations. And those that take vacations, 67% are still checking in at least once a day, which means they're not even getting that time to truly unplug, which is what our mind and body needs, what our relationships need along the way. And the good news is that over 73% say they love what they do. And I think that's why they're so willing to commit those hours, even into their own sacrifice or their own detriment along the way. But really, I saw that happen with myself. And I went into business with a toddler in tow, and I very much wanted the time freedom and the financial freedom. And as he's grown and evolved, sometimes I have had to remind myself of the giving, or give myself permission to adjust my schedule according to his schedule. You know, he's in middle school now. School starts a lot earlier. It's actually much easier now than it was before. He's out of the house by 6:30, but it's just giving myself permission to have and find that rhythm that works best for me in any season we're in. And I think that's what I see other business owners, that oftentimes they're not making the adjustments until they've actually started to experience the sacrifice.
Right. Yeah. So you get into it for the time, money, freedom, and then you notice that that is absolutely not what you've set yourself up for. So when you were even going through it yourself, what was it that you adjusted that was like, oh, okay, light bulb moment. What did you change, and how did that affect your business?
I think very much two things is, when my son, when he is leaving at 6:30 in the morning now, it's, I make sure I'm going to bed earlier because we're getting up earlier. So taking care of myself in that regard, but then also giving myself permission that I'm no longer exercising at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. I want to spend that time with him. So I've shifted my exercise to after he leaves for school, which means I may not start my work day showered, ready to go until 9 or 10 in the morning. But then I'm also working later in the afternoon, still within that 40-hour time frame. I am one that strives to keep it at 40 hours or below. But there's also times where if he's off with friends or sports or whatever else, I'm totally fine to also sit down and be doing some of my creative work that I'm not doing when I'm face to face with clients.
Okay, great. So you've kind of taken your calendar and put business around life
Yes.
versus the other way around, is what I'm hearing.
100%. And that is very much what I typically, one of the first fundamental changes I make with every client, or I encourage with every client, is to start ensuring that they are leading their calendar as opposed to their calendar leading them. And starting first and foremost with getting all the personal commitments and desires on the calendar, the date nights, the doctor's appointments, the self-care time, all of that goes on my calendar first. And then I move into the CEO time and scheduling the leadership, the strategic planning, the creative time, and also ensuring that that's being put on my calendar when I'm at my best, when I know I'm at my most high performing, most alert, more clear, more clarity and focus, which means it's not necessarily at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That is not my clearest time.
I was just talking to a girlfriend, and she's in Sweden. And she was like, yeah, it was 6 o'clock my time, but like 2 or 3 her time. And she's like, yeah, I'm hitting that 2, 3 o'clock slump. And I was like, I've noticed that too, that it's just by the time I hit 3 o'clock, I'm like, I'm kind of done. I definitely need to walk away. So is that the best way to go? If somebody's sitting here going, I just work through it. I just keep pushing and I don't really know or acknowledge when my best productive time is, when I should be doing client calls versus creative CEO time versus working on team or supporting team. How would you support somebody in that situation?
Great question. I actually had a mentor share with me years ago because I know I'm most clear at 7, 8, 9, 10 in the morning. Like I am an early bird. That is when I'm really the most fresh and energized. And so in the beginning, I was giving those hours to my clients because I wanted to be showing up in best service to them. And I had someone ask me, so you're okay bringing the worst of you to your own business?
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, oh, that's a
So
right. Say that again.
she said, so you're okay, you're comfortable bringing the worst version of you, the less clear, the tired, the wanting to turn in for the day. You're okay bringing that version to your own business. And that absolutely flipped things for me. And what I've actually come to find out is I'm okay at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon when I'm with clients because I still have such a strong desire to serve at a higher level that I bring the best version of me to them in those hours, where it was just when I was doing work for myself and on my business, more of my creative for me, I was allowing myself to get in the way more. But for a client, I would not get it be in the way. I would be of full service. So I think sometimes you don't know until you start testing, like just becoming more aware of, okay, do I have the best energy right now? Do I have the best focus? Or is it later in the day? Am I feeling more tired? Oh, do I usually feel this tired at this time of day on a regular basis? And then schedule accordingly. And some people, I think it's also giving yourself permission to find what works best for you. Some people like to have a similar structure every single day of the week. Others like Monday, Wednesday, Friday to be one structure and Tuesday, Thursday to be another, or whatever that may look like. And that's okay.
Mhm.
And give yourself that permission. I'm in a situation now where I share custody of my son. So I know that the week I have him is one schedule, and the
Mhm.
week that he's with his dad is a different schedule.
Yeah,
And so it's just a matter of giving yourself permission to test the waters and figure out what that looks like and structure your business accordingly.
smart, wicked smart. Um, have you ever played with when you've got, because we're both on the West Coast,
Hmm.
when you've got clients on the East Coast or clients abroad and they're like my Irish clients, their end of day is my early, 7 a.m. beginning of day.
Yes.
Are those just kind of like the one-offs that you go, okay, well, because I'm supporting this client, I'm willing to swap things around, but mainly I'm trying to stay everything in these time blocks.
Can be a slippery slope. I have had clients as far as Australia, so that is definitely a different structure as well. For her, what we typically ended up doing is the end of my day, like a 4 o'clock in the afternoon, was the start of her day, I believe it was.
Yep.
And so that worked. When I say it's a slippery slope is in the beginning, again was making exceptions to my own rules by booking calls early in the day. And then what I found happened is that I was not bringing the attention to my own business. And when I allowed someone else's appointment to be first and foremost of the day, I was ultimately saying other people's priorities are mine.
Mhm.
And I realized that that is not how you grow a business or lead a business in the direction that you actually want it to go. That is basically handing somebody else the steering wheel and you
Yeah.
becoming the passenger driver.
Yeah. Okay, so let's keep going along that thread of the growth piece.
Yep.
And like, where do multiple six-figure businesses either tend to get stuck on their way to seven figures, or are there some like bottlenecks and things that you see happening that stops that growth from occurring?
Absolutely. And you just said the perfect word. It's become one of my topics often, and it's bottlenecks. And it's, knowing that in order to grow, we need to be strategizing, we need to be systematizing, and we want to scale. And what often happens is bottlenecks are created throughout our organization. And in different seasons, they may show up in different areas of the business. So in no particular order, I say that there's typically five most common bottlenecks on your journey to growth. And the first one is really optimizing the talent on your team. That means, do you have the right amount of support? Do you have the right people in the right seats? And are you providing leadership that actually provides ongoing mentorship and allows them, each and every member of your team, to continue their professional growth journey? Because in order to grow a business, every individual must continue to grow, because the who you hired when you started, that's not necessarily the only skill set that you're going to need to make it to the next level. And so that's not to say the individual that starts with you in the beginning cannot stay with you. It's just that you may want to continue to pour into their development and ensuring that they're keeping up with the right skill set, the right resources, the right knowledge to take the business to the next level. There's a lot of truth that says, you're only as strong as your weakest link. And you want to make sure that not only are one of your team members the weakest link, you want to make sure that as the leader, you are not the weakest link.
So before you go on to the next ones, I want to touch on that piece because like my very first hire was somebody just to pull out of me my certification program on how to run and produce events, how to be a certified event producer, right? And it's now morphed, and she's been with me for, I don't know, 7+ years.
Yep.
But when I've gone into training and mastermind groups and things of that nature, I've taken her with me, right? So she's also getting the training and has, since gone from somebody that's pulled stuff out of me as a project base to being like my second in command, running team and being ops and knows how to do events and like all of it. So she's touched every piece of the business. I think that's so important. I'm glad I kind of like fell into that piece, but just to give a case study for everybody of the importance of investing in your team if they're the right person in the right
Yep.
seat, right? I just happened to find a really amazing support person.
Absolutely. And I think that's another thing, two things out of that to remember is that as you are bringing on new members of your team, make sure that part of your continual communication is, what is their vision for their own growth? Are they
Mhm.
totally happy in the position they are in now? And there's nothing wrong with that if that fits in your goals as well. Or do they want to see themselves grow as the organization grows and be able to take on more responsibilities? I think that's so important to continue that conversation so that you're not promoting someone who doesn't really want the additional responsibilities or the new
Yeah.
role, but that you are looking at how you can grow and support an individual who does want to grow.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Okay.
And I
Number two.
think, yeah, I was just going to say
Oh,
the other thought when it comes to talent of your team is making sure that you're looking to hire for where you're headed and that you're not hiring for where you are. Because what got you to where you are now is not going to be what gets you to that next level.
yeah. Yeah. Brilliant.
The next bottleneck is looking at your operations and looking to see where might there be some inefficiencies in the operations. And that, includes outdated processes, lack of automation, insufficient systems to handle the increased workload, which oftentimes leads to delays, it leads to reduced productivity. Another big thing I'm working on with a number of clients right now is getting their systems documented, getting everything documented with those SOPs, those standard operating procedures, and bringing alignment into the organization. Two of the organizations I'm working with now recently crossed that 7 figures. And so used to, and there is some truth. You can fly by the seat of your pants to get to 6 figures and even multiple 6 figures. You start adding systems. Then, as you're adding team, though, all of a sudden you get to a point where you realize there's all kinds of micro systems happening in these systems. And let's really start aligning this so that we can have optimal efficiency.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. We see so much, right? Behind the scenes when we're running and producing events, we touch probably every department in a company. We touch the marketing, we touch the sales, we touch customer service, we operations, if there are any operations, onboarding, like the whole thing. And it's fascinating to see exactly what it is that you're saying.
Yep.
Like they're like, okay, cool. We're just flying by the seat of our pants. We're doing it and we're making it happen and everybody's all in. And then as you start to grow, you're like, why are all these things breaking? I don't understand. This used to work. Yeah. So having the systems in place, I feel is absolutely huge.
Yes, and understanding that as you continue to grow, those systems, some may stay the same, and some may need continual grooming and enhancing based on workload and based on bandwidth and capacity,
Mhm. Yep.
and just really keeping it fluid. The third bottleneck is when it comes to acquiring new clients and retaining your existing ones. So
Yep.
often we go from, focusing on marketing and sales to, oh my gosh, we did really well at that. Now we have to figure out how to service all these clients. And it becomes, the gas pedal and the brake, and we're feeling that ride. The team is feeling that ride. It's a little bit clunky at times. We're missing anniversaries or opportunities to have that extra touch point with a client that will help with renewing that client down the road. We miss those opportunities to deliver above and beyond, which will help the opportunity to renew those clients. So it's just really looking at what is the true experience that we want clients to have versus what are we actually delivering, and where can we kind of fill those gaps. What do we
Yeah.
need to do to fill those gaps, while also continuing to really track our marketing so that we know which sources are the best performing, and also understanding that it might be best performing in that they're bringing us opportunities to work with new individuals. Are they bringing the right people? Are they bringing the people that we want to be serving, or are we modifying how we're serving to fit who's showing up? And
Yeah.
chicken before the egg, or the egg before the chicken, which way do we really want to intentionally grow the business,
Yeah.
not accept the business?
Right. Well, and from my seat, I see it as like they focus all the time and energy on the marketing and the sales and the lead gen, and then they get the sale and they're like, "Woohoo! Go back to marketing and sales," because that's what you had to do. Like you had to do the hustle in the beginning. But I think what you're saying is there's this tipping point
Yep.
when you're going towards 7 figures is you really have to start looking at how do you do the retention and how do you decrease the churn and what does that look like and what do you have to have in place and what has to shift.
Absolutely. And what study after study shows us is that, of course, it's so much more cost effective to be
Oh,
renewing clients
yeah.
than bringing in new clients. Yet it is a matter of finding what is that happy balance, because we don't want to focus solely on renewal.
Mhm.
We want a good combination of both.
And community, right? And so like
Yes.
what are you instilling in? So it's like a fulfillment event, something that is client based, right?
Yep.
Are touch points that you can instill into your system that not only helps with the renewals, it helps decrease the churn and also supports you in creating community so that they continue to stay with you more than a year or more than the 6 months of the program, right?
Yep.
So I'm hearing you say is what are the systems that you're putting into place to
Mhm.
allow you to keep them all that hard work that you spent on finding them in the first place,
Yep.
retaining them.
Absolutely. 100%.
Love it.
You know that area well.
I do, absolutely. And that's, one of the things that we help instill into the companies that we support, right? Is I think community is the new currency. Those that focus on community are the ones that are going to thrive and are going to scale faster than anybody else.
Absolutely. It's community, and what I will say is it's also culture.
Yeah.
Culture for your clients as much as it is culture for your employees too, because, and I know I'm kind of taking it back to that first bottleneck on talent, but it is about creating an environment that your team looks forward to being part of. That they get excited that it's Monday morning. They get excited that they're in another team meeting and they're talking about not just the status of projects and clients, but the updates, the progress, the wins with clients.
The
And
wins.
that's all
Yeah.
part of it as well. While that was on marketing and sales of clients, I'm also realizing that it goes hand in hand with how we are treating and the culture that we're creating for our teams as well.
Yeah, and I agree. I think that's something that is kind of put to the side. The focus is all on the clients. But if we incorporate the team, because they're a part of those wins, when a client gets a win, the team's a part of that. And so celebrating when those things are happening and the culture within your organization, because you don't want to have churn within your organization, that's painful.
Yes, yes. And there are many leaders who have really ultimately put their foot in the not just the sand, the concrete. The one I'm thinking of, Tony Hsieh, who has since passed away, the founder of Zappos. It
Mhm.
was all about create the environment for where your employees and your team members love to be, because when they are happy, they will produce more effectively. And there's statistics on that proof as well. And so I think it may even be Richard Branson who has also talked about really putting that emphasis in the culture, and knowing that when the culture is led effectively and efficiently, the team will do what it needs to do to deliver effectively and efficiently and keep that really being a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, what does that bring us to now?
All right, the fourth and fifth. Fourth bottleneck is managing cash flow. And what I will say beyond this is, or actually underneath that, is tracking and knowing your numbers, not just dollars. It's knowing how many leads came in, how many sales opportunities were there, how many sales were closed, what is the cost to deliver on that. Just recently, I was having a conversation with someone and we were laughing because so often we hear the report, the P&L, which profit and loss. And really, you can only have a profit or a loss as a company as a whole. There may be subsidiaries where maybe that would be different, but you're either in a profit or you're in a loss, not profit and loss. But that's a side note. It's really understanding, how much money is coming in, how much is flowing out. Are you being as tight as possible with your expenses and really monitoring and handling that well? What can you be doing to bring in more revenue as well? And making sure that you have reports and trackers, and not just that it's being reported and tracked, that you're actually, as the owner, that you're setting aside time, whether it's weekly or at least twice a month, where you're evaluating those reports, and you're also setting those as really solid KPIs for your leaders to be delivering on as well. And that's part of the training and empowering them to take accountability and responsibility as well.
And then you're doing business by the numbers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the last one is really ensuring that, because I focus for the most part on service-based businesses, it's making sure that your services are scalable. And, making sure that your ability to deliver on it does not become the bottleneck. So really looking at, where are you delivering services directly? Where can you be leveraging your time to deliver services? And do you also want a revenue stream where it's pure passive? create it once and then it produces revenue again and again, and making sure that you have a balance of those services based on the outcome or the desire, the business model that you want to be growing.
Could you give us an example? Because I mean, I know a lot of service-based companies. I have a service-based company. What's an example of somebody that you've supported where you've helped them scale and leverage a service-based company? Like, what did you add in? What did you take away? What did you adjust? Like, tell me an example.
Absolutely. One of the first ones that just came to mind is a consulting agency, another is a law firm. But, certainly consulting starts with an owner delivering a service, it's a delivering consulting service. And then it could be, they're going to act as an HR consultant 20 hours a week for one organization. Then they add another organization. And then they realize that they could be adding more consultants who will actually go out there and deliver. So now, as the owner, that's leveraging their time. They are leading the leaders who are out there doing consulting. It also could be a matter of creating a community, as you were talking about earlier. It could be a group program where you are teaching, training, answering questions in a group capacity, which is certainly leveraging your time as the owner because you're now delivering one to many versus one-on-one. The passive side is actually, I'm going to think, well, no, I can do it twofold. A law firm is going to create a kind of do-it-yourself will for individuals, and it could be a combination of videos, it could be audio files, training, and then actual PDFs teaching people how to do it in a digital capacity. I have had a bookkeeping firm who also went from doing books to teaching a community of individuals how to do their own books, or what are the basics to be looking for. So there's all different ways to be able to serve more people in a different capacity.
Brilliant, brilliant. Okay, those were amazing. I'm sure everybody's gonna have to like rewind and take some notes on all of the things and where they're currently at in those bottlenecks. Let me ask you this. Um, what is something that so in my business, we are always like reverse engineering everything.
Mhm.
If somebody, we're at the time of this recording, we are heading into the new year.
Mhm.
Um, what is something that a business owner can do, like starting today, that would start to propel them towards that seven-figure mark?
Absolutely. I think just like you said with reverse engineering, it's about starting with the end in mind. And the end could be, what do I want to celebrate come Friday afternoon? And reverse engineer not only what actions need to be taken between now and then, it's also about who do those goals require me to become? Who am I as the leader? How am I thinking? How am I behaving? Who am I being? Am I being someone who believes I can have the celebration by the end of the week? Because if so, it will make the doing that much easier, because the doing will hopefully be in alignment with the being. Um, but the same can be true. You could be thinking about the end of the month. What do I want to be celebrating? The end of the quarter, the end of the year, 3 years out, 5 years out, etc. It's really getting clear on what do you want to celebrate, and what does that, or who does that require you to become in the process, and
Mhm.
start being that person today.
Mm, yeah.
Be a high performer, be an action taker, be a delegator, be intentional with your time.
Yeah, I'm sure there's also some mindset stuff that comes into it, because when you started your business as a service-based entrepreneur, you were the one doing it all. And
Correct.
as you start to bring in the team, then you're delegating, but yet there's still probably a piece of you that's like, oh, let me just jump in and do it. Or, if I'm not the one doing it, then who am I? And it's that switch of, you now have to learn the new skill set of being a leader of people and not the one necessarily doing anymore, right?
Absolutely. It's and with that, one of the mindset pieces I think people don't necessarily see at first is trusting yourself that you recruited the right talent and that you have trained them effectively. Because if you have the right talent and you have given them the right tools, it's natural progression to now empower them to deliver on what they were hired to do. That being said, I have several business owners that actually have been very good at delegating. They have absolutely, before working with me, they had even removed themselves from most of the day-to-day operations. Yet what they have found is that because they did not want to be the micromanager, they are not managing at all. And
Uh,
they've removed themselves so much that they don't know how to keep a finger on the pulse and how to continue that conversation at a higher level with their leaders, where now it's mentorship, it's advisorship. And I'm actually able to kind of role model for them exactly how I lead my sessions with my clients. I show them use these same principles with your team, because that's how, it start with a celebration. Hey, what can we celebrate today? Getting them thinking about the wins. It's ending every conversation with, what do you want to celebrate? Or, what are we striving to celebrate at our next meeting? And what do you need from me in order to be more successful in your job? I am a firm believer that leadership does not have to happen from the front of the room, that I am not there to be served by my team. I am there as a leader to serve my team, to ensure that they have everything they need to deliver on their responsibilities. For me, that's good leadership.
Brilliant. I love that, Dana. Sadly, we're going to go ahead and wrap up here. But if people are interested in connecting with you, learning more about what you've got going on, and do you happen to have a gift for us? Tell us all the details.
Absolutely. You can certainly find me on all of the primary social medias, LinkedIn. I also have a LinkedIn newsletter where I'm putting out quality information and resources on a weekly and bi-weekly basis. You can find me on Facebook. I do have a couple of goodies that I absolutely would like to share. One is a guide on how to be $1 million CEO. And yes, that is good. Even if you have crossed into 7 figures already and really want to know how to take it to multi 7 figures, this applies for you as well. And notice that I said it's how to be $1 million CEO. It's not just about the doing. But you can find that at danaearhart.com/million. And then I also have another great tool that if you're not exactly sure where the bottlenecks are in your business, I have a tool. It's the Business Growth Diagnostic Assessment. Send me a message at dana@danaearhart.com or through any of the social media. Just mention diagnostic tool and I will send that assessment right out to you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that. We will link that in the show notes. My last question for you is, what is a takeaway or memorable note you'd like to leave our audience with?
I think the biggest takeaway that I will share is what we said early on, which is lead your calendar and start with your personal desires. Make sure those personal commitments, personal dates, and self care time are on the calendar first and foremost. And then start with your CEO duties and move through the business accordingly. That's how you ensure that you're building a business that supports the life you want and not left trying to squeeze in life around the business.
Love it. Thank you so much for being with us. And I want to thank our audience for joining us on another episode of Creating Powerful Impact. I'm thrilled for you to start taking all of these lessons, these diamonds that she's dropped, the resources that you've learned here today, implement them, and create even more impact in your world. Until next time, have an outstanding rest of your day. Take care. Thank you so much for listening to the Creating Powerful Impact podcast. If you are a successful coach, speaker, author, or thought leader who would like to be on this program, simply visit creatingpowerfulimpact.com/guest. If you are someone who got something out of this interview, would you please do me a favor and share this episode on social media? Just do a quick screenshot with your phone and text it to a friend or post it on your socials. Also, if you know somebody that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let them know about the show and include the hashtag Creating Powerful Impact. I love seeing all of your posts and great guest selections. We are regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure you don't miss any episodes, go ahead and subscribe. Your thumbs up, ratings, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show, and they really mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more about us? Head on over to our website, graceandeaseproductions.com, or follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram. Just look for Grace and Ease Productions on your favorite platform. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.